ladies and gentlemen, to provide our first spotlight presentation today, please welcome the Chairman and CEO of Holsman International, the Honorable Henrietta Fore.
Good morning, everyone. I know that I'm competing with an exceptionally good panel that has just come off, and they were so good. So I understand if people are milling around. But let me just say how very excited I am to be here, and that I think Peter and Amanda put together a really remarkable gathering. And I will add some thoughts because I have watched the progression here of must-haves to then become must-dos to then become how-to-dos. And what I will look at is picking out a few of these very good and salient suggestions that I think have to be areas that we do together do's for next year, and that we focus on them as being best do's. So you'll hear a few thoughts. So let me begin with number one, which is I'm picking up the theme of circular economy, which you have outlined and is very thoughtfully put together. I think circular economy has enormous potential in our world, but it has not yet really come through in the business sector or the public sector. And so what could we do about that? I'd focus on two areas. One is agriculture. Some of you know that I have a lemon and avocado ranch in my spare time. And I can tell you that we avocado farmers do not recycle the skins or the seeds, and yet we understand that seeds could be a very strong protein resource. This happens throughout the agriculture industry. So the circular economy could really be strong for agriculture. The other area that I have a company is in construction materials, and we have talked about carbon and creating of rocks and building materials. We're just not far enough along. It's not making its way into the manufacturers and into the industries and the building codes. So I will flag those two, but I think circular economy is one that ASU and the Global Futures Conference can really focus on and can make big headway for our world. The second one is on the item that was mentioned, to manage land use and global markets for nature-based solutions. And here I would showcase also best practices. This is part of this best do's. We are going to need public-private finance. We are going to need public and private markets. And we need to rethink that as a world. We have potential that is as yet untapped. And you can see it at this conference. You can see it in New York during all of these days, that often the business sector, the public sector, and the many entrepreneurs, we are all swimming at different levels of currents. So this is my second one, to showcase best practices. My third area is equitable finance. So you've had some panels on finance, and it is often about dividing the pie in more equitable ways, which we do need to do. But we also need to increase the size of the pie. And to do this, I think public-private finance will be the area for the next decade that we as a world need to overcome. And whether we use it for climate, whether we use it for any other sector, we should use public-private finance. Artificial intelligence is coming in strongly for both sectors, but they need to be joined. So that would be my number three. My number four is on disaster preparedness. So I have the great privilege of being on the Global Preparedness Monitoring Board, and we are getting ready for whatever is the next pandemic. And I know that we can use suggestions from the world at large, and certainly from ASU and the Global Futures Conference, for areas that we should be focusing on for preparedness. One of the problems with preparedness is that there is a certain amount of lethargy once we do not have an immediate crisis. And it's very, very difficult as a nation to put your scarce resources behind something that is not an immediate threat. And so there are many, many areas that you wish you could work on. When I was head of UNICEF, I can tell you that we had so many needs for children that you would wish to do, but you just do not have enough resources. So if this conference can give us some ideas of 1 or 2 areas that you think would be exceptionally important for us to monitor as a world for the next pandemic, we would be very open to it. We have seen some interesting areas that could be such monitoring systems. One might be what the UK does with blood systems, where whenever you give blood or take a blood test, they are checking for pathogens. That's an early warning system. There are now drought management systems so that the prevention and the anticipation of drought means that you can anticipate the movement of refugees and people and conflict. So this sort of thing could be very powerful for the world. Number 5, water. So ASU is physically located, is in a water basin that needs to have more water. I think this is an ideal one for the mixture of policy and science and students and professors to work on. I live in the western part of the United States much of my time, but I have traveled through the world and have seen what happened in Yemen with the lack of water, and we had so many children dying of cholera in the Jordan River Valley. It goes on, and you can see even just outside of this room, there are more pictures on water. If ASU would pick up water, there is a number of entities around the world, but I think it could be a leader in water. Cleaning of water for use in agriculture, for being able to be used in hospitals as water to wash surgeons' hands, for drinking water, all of the above, it would be very important. 6th area, community peacemaking. This is one in which we just heard about youth and women. They can be the strongest in this. I saw some excellent programs in Mali where students were knocking door to door, asking the young to come to school. And as you know, there is often a division between the farmers and the herders, but they were knocking on everyone's door, and they were the peacemakers. We had 25,000 of them out knocking on doors, and it creates peace if you can go to school together and learn to make friends. 7, I would invest in digital education. ASU has been such a strong proponent of this. In UNICEF and with Generation Unlimited, it looks like we have now reached 250 million young people around the world. We need that number to be 1.8 billion young people. So digital education, digital connectivity, having a little Wi-Fi on top of every schoolhouse could massively help our world. So ASU, there's another to do for you. And the last one, the 8th one, is on innovations. I see, once I've stepped down from UNICEF, so many innovations in small companies. One is an innovation in which they are able to keep blood longer. So we now throw out blood after 6 weeks, human blood. Very hard for us to get supplies because we need humans to give us blood. But there are so many who have regular transfusions, children and older people. Sickle cell is one of those areas. So it is a question of equity and equality. It is a question of health. But this innovation is that we could keep blood for 6 to 9 months. That changes the world. We've also seen some refugee finance in which you can get the financial criteria of a refugee before they leave their country, in their country, what is their credit rating, and import it into whatever country they are going to and translate it for the banks so they can get instant credit, a credit card, identity and all for being in that country. I think the innovations are extraordinary, and my last request would be that I think sometimes in the world we have ideas that we would like the world to develop something. And coming out of this conference, you'll have a number of ideas. So couldn't we put together a list of 10 things that we wish that the world would develop? You've been hearing them from speaker after speaker, but maybe we could curate them into a very short, very impactful list. With that, thank you very much, and enjoy the conference.